Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
This show is brought to you by Audible. They are the leading provider of spoken audio information and entertainment. You know I'm a huge Audible fan because you can listen to audiobooks whenever and wherever you want. Whether you're at the beach, the gym, or stuck in traffic, there's nothing quite like Audible. Go to audiblepodcast.com/Lutz and sign up today. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1230 WBZT, and it's time for another Triple Lutz Report. This is episode 288. It is July 31st, 2013. Can't even believe it. I'm just amazed how time flies, whether you're having a good time or not, although fortunately have been having a good time lately. And yesterday I was having a really good time, and then I saw a court decision come across my desk, and I was having a great time because the Appellate Division of the First Department in New York State is the Appellate Division, First Department of the New York Supreme Court, affirmed the decision of Manhattan Supreme Court Justice Milton Tingling, who had basically struck down Bloomberg's large soda ban, and rightfully so. I think if you've been listening to the Financial Survival Network for any amount of time, you know I don't drink soda. I stopped drinking it close to a year ago. I've had 3-4 cans of Dr. Brown's Diet Cherry Soda, cream soda. I like that stuff. I know it's no good for you. Nanny Danielle Park, please forgive me, but I don't drink much of it. I don't drink, really the only thing I drink is water and wine, and I don't even drink much wine anymore. I mean, for a while, I was drinking too much of it when I moved down here, but I cut back. Part of the reason for the weight loss, but I digress. So writing for the Appellate Division, and this is a total ultra-liberal court, I have to tell you. I can't tell you how many times I've been inside that court when family business, we used to print appeals. I'm telling you hundreds of times. If you're into architecture, go down there. It's on 28th Street and Madison Avenue, kind of Baroque styled courthouse. The main courtroom, the bench is, I guess it's mahogany, hand-carved mahogany, done, I think, in the 20s or the late teens. A lot of statuary done, and hasn't been maintained as well as it should, but hey, it's a government building. What do you expect, right? Governments don't do that thing called maintenance very well. Got to rely on the private sector, but as well as a government building can be maintained, if that isn't an oxymoron, this one has been. So Renwick, writing for the, I guess it was unanimous. I think they have I think it's a 5-judge bench. It's just so great. So writing for the bench, he criticized Bloomberg and the health department for proposing a ban with giant loopholes, which would exclude colas and energy drinks, but allow milkshakes and fruit juices. I said would include colas and energy drinks, but allow for fruit juices and milkshakes. And similarly, businesses like delis and restaurants were prevented from hawking sugary beverages, but a 7-Eleven could still sell its signature Big Gulp. So the panel said those inconsistencies go beyond health concerns in that it manipulates choices to try to change consumer norms. Yeah, well, you know, the city's doing that every day of the week, let's face it. So I'd like to say this is a win for consumer choice. It's a win for the Constitution, and it's a win for you. let's see him strike down the stupid bike lanes, the bus lanes, and everything else. This megalomaniacal, crazy man who's been mayor of New York City for way, way, way too long has been after. I mean, his smoking bans outside on the beach, in the park. The guy is just way, way, way beyond the pale. Sorry, it was a 4-panel judge. And they said, like the Supreme Court, we conclude that in promulgating this regulation, the Board of Health failed to act within the bounds of its lawfully delegated authority. And like I said, it was unanimous. The judges said the legislature should decide this issue. So they want the legislature to get in on the act. Hopefully the legislature will be a little more circumspect here, and they won't get involved because they know they're going to really get slammed on this, and they're not going to get involved. Bloomberg, Mr. Nanny Never Say Die, called the decision a temporary setback. By the time he gets around to trying to override it, hopefully he will be gone from office, and his jihad to reduce obesity in the Big Apple will come to an end, and he will fade into the sunset riding one of his rent-a-bikes that are ruining the bicycle rental business, the private bicycle rental business around Manhattan, and further killing the parking business, killing parking spaces around Manhattan. And a diverse group of organizations from the American beverage industry to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce had sued last fall, claiming that the 16-ounce cap rule imposed social policy by executive fiat. Hope you're listening, President Obama. This could easily apply to you. A spokesman for the ABA said they were pleased. Well, of course they are. There's nothing in this decision that we haven't talked about, that you haven't heard before. This is the final nail on the coffin. They can try to appeal it to the New York State Court of Appeals, which is actually New York State's highest court. Don't try to figure out New York State's crazy patchwork quilt of courts. I spent my whole professional career navigating those courts. Unless you have to deal with them, don't bother. It's irrelevant. They make no sense. Most other states, you start out in the Superior Court, then you go to the Appeals Court or the Appellate Division, and then you go to the State Supreme Court. Of course, that would make too much sense for New York. They had to come up with this other system, which it basically amounts to the same, but the names have been changed to confuse the public, and it's been successful. So ask the man on the street what the highest court in New York State is. They will have absolutely no idea. The city will have to move for leave to appeal to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals will deny it. This is the end of the discussion. The city council will never pass such an ordinance because right now they're in the middle of an election, and the decimation brought on by Elliot Weiner, or is that Anthony Spitzer or Anthony Weiner Spitzer, whatever his name is, it continues. His election hopes are virtually over, and good riddance to them all. We'll have Christine Quinn. Her election hopes are almost over. Say hello to Mayor Joe Lhota. He's running against this guy who's the heir to the Gristiti fortune, and basically that guy is just going to be a foil to get Joe Lhota into the news. He's just been keeping his powder dry. It's amazing that none of the candidates on the Democratic side have had one nasty word to say about Elliot Weiner. I keep confusing these guys, and I don't know why. How do you confuse Elliot Spitzer and Anthony Weiner? I mean, do you understand that? Can't tell them apart. I think that Anthony Weiner will drag down Elliot Spitzer. It would be interesting to see two Republicans elected to the highest offices in New York City. I mean, you could just see the gears, there are people working behind the scenes making this a reality. I'm telling you, I could be wrong. I might just be a conspiracy nut job. Me and Chris Duane and Sean at SGT and Brother John F. We just imagine all this stuff. You really have free choice. Everything happens just because it happens. It's all random. Central banks are they're just there to help you. They really want the economy to thrive. They want you to be employed, and they really want you to achieve your highest aspirations and goals, and they don't want you unemployed on food stamps, and they don't want you dependent upon the state. We're just imagining all this. Forget everything I said. But when Joe Lhota gets elected mayor of New York City, I want you to email me and say, maybe you had a point. And I'm telling you that when they got Bloomberg to run for mayor, he didn't want that job in the worst way. He never wanted to be mayor. The reason he's so damn angry now and trying to control everything you're doing is because he knows he's been had. They promised him that becoming mayor of New York City was going to be his stepping stone to become president, and then they were laughing behind his back because the guy is so vainglorious that he believed them, and he was never going to be president. But they didn't want any of those crazy socialistic, communistic, collectivistic morons who were running after Giuliani stepped down to become mayor. So they talked him into it. They knew he could buy his way into the mayorship. It worked. They got him to stay there 3 terms, waving that presidential flag in front of his face. I mean, the guy is good for nothing now. He probably couldn't get elected dog catcher of Washington, D.C., and they totally conned this guy, and no wonder he's pissed. So, this is what happened. These are the way the power games are played with the elites, and you can doubt me if you want, but when Mayor Joe Lhota is inaugurated in January of 2014, you write me apology emails, because I'm telling you, this is the way it's going to be. This guy was created to become mayor of New York City. Come on, the guy's father was a New York City cop. All right, he's got red, white, and blue blood in his veins. His one grandfather was a New York City fireman. The other guy was a taxi driver, for crying out loud. If I had to pick somebody who could be a perfect candidate, his name would be Joe Lhota. And, I mean, the guy went to Georgetown. He's got brains. You don't just get into Georgetown, you just don't get into Georgetown being an idiot, okay? And then he went to Harvard. He ran the MTA. He was a big shot during the Giuliani administration. Big, I'm talking like in the inner circle of Giuliani. Giuliani didn't put up with idiots, okay? You didn't produce under Giuliani. He fired your ass within 5 minutes. You were on the street looking for a new job, and you wouldn't get a job because once the word got out that Giuliani fired you because you were an incompetent, you were gone. So up next, I want to talk about fracking. I want to talk about the death of the father of fracking. It's Kerry Lutz on the Financial Survival Network, 1230 WBZT. This is Triple Lutz Report 288. I want to welcome our new sponsor, Audible. I've been listening to audiobooks from them for over 5 years now. I am a huge Audible fan. In fact, I've bought multiple platinum memberships. Platinum membership, you buy 25 audiobooks at a time. I just got done listening to the first 3 or 4 books of the Jack Reacher series, the one you probably saw, or maybe you didn't, in the theater, Tom Cruise movie. I mean, just a wonderful book, wonderful series, expertly narrated. And so many times I'm in the car, I get sick of listening to music or news or the radio. I just put my iPod on, plays the book, and makes that trip go by so quickly. To me, this is one of the great things of the information revolution of the internet, is that you can get over 100,000 books on your iPad or iPod or iPhone instantly, Another thing that they have is courses on Audible, the Modern Scholar series. And I've listened to lectures about World War I, Shakespeare, nanotechnology, detective novels. It's so enlightening. To me, Audible is a must-have killer app for the iPhone, the iPad, for my computer, wherever I am. I'm always downloading these books. Like I say, they're a sponsor, so check them out. They've got a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial membership. Just sign up at www.audiblepodcast.com/Lutz, L-U-T-Z. Again, audiblepodcast.com/Lutz. Sign up today. Like I say, this to me is a dream sponsor. These are exactly the types of things that I like to pass on to you because I'm such a fanatical, over-the-top Audible user. 5-6 years I've been listening, hundreds of books. I used to think I was a well-read person, and it's a little strange when somebody asks you, did you read that book? And you have to say, well, somebody actually read it to me, but they actually did a better job than I could have, so I don't mind it. But my friend Sean Perger up in Vancouver, he listens to almost as many as I do, and he can't get enough. I know you're going to love this company, love their service. I do. So check them out. audiblepodcast.com/Lutz. We're back on the Financial Survival Network, 1230 WBZT. This is Triple Lutz Report 288. It is July 31st, 2013. I mean, can you believe that it's July 31st? I mean, my birthday just a week and a half ago. I mean, what is going on here? I mean, time waits for no man, as it's said, and I can't even believe that I've been alive as long as I have. But the father of the fracking boom, guy named George Mitchell. Now, of course, they write his obit and they say, George Mitchell dies and he urged greater regulation of drilling. Forbes wrote it, so you got to put a little credence in it. But look, guy was 94, billionaire. He came up with a concept. Everyone has always known from the birth of the oil drilling boom, over 100 years ago, going on 150 years now, that you would drill for oil and you'd cream skim, you'd only get the low-hanging fruit that was there. And Mitchell knew that there had to be a way to get more of that oil. And he worked on it. He worked. It had been around since the 50s, hydraulic fracturing, or fracking as it's called. And they used to call it fracking, F-R-A-C-I-N-G. And really a bad term. The left, the environmental radicals have seized on that term because it sounds evil, but they use it to break up the layers of impermeable shale rock. And he started doing it in the 90s in the Barnett Formation near Fort Worth in Texas. And hey, it was a risk. There was no guarantee it was going to work. And his engineers kept telling him, you're wasting your time, George. It's never going to work. Like the Wright brothers, like everybody else said, you're wasting your money, George. Ain't going to work. And he said, well, damn, let's figure this thing out, because there's no question there's a tremendous source of gas here at 250 feet thick. And once Mitchell proved that huge volumes of natural gas were there and that he could get them to flow through the fracked layers of shale, it was game on. And then everybody piled on. And the guy cleaned up. He sold his company to Devon Energy for $3.5 billion in 2002, and he'd been the largest shareholder ever since. And guy was worth billions. And look, his feeling was you had to do fracking properly, because if you don't do it right, there could be trouble. And he said there's no excuse for not getting it right. There's good techniques for doing it, and you had to use those techniques to make sure that you'd get it safe. You had to do it safely. And look, the small independent drillers, a lot of them had made mistakes in the past. Some people aren't doing it right. And he believed that regulation was necessary. But what George didn't always understand is that the big guys used the regulation to drive out the small guys. Historically, that is what's always happened, whether it's meatpacking, railroads, bus lines, truckers. They always use regulation to get rid of the small guys, especially pharmaceuticals. Just look at the FDA. They create these hugely expensive drug testing procedures to make sure that small pharmaceutical companies cannot get their drugs approved, or if they do get their drugs approved, they have no more money left to market them. And cool thing, like Mitchell came from a humble background. His father was a goat herder in Greece, immigrated to the U.S. in 1901, eventually got a railroad job, and as the story goes, paymaster on the railroad got tired of writing out the full Greek name, which was something like Paris Kavopoulos, and he cut it down to Mike Mitchell. And then Mitchell was a gambler, an entrepreneur. He ran a shoe shine and pressing shop, and married his mother. And then George Mitchell, attended Texas A&M and started working on the oil patch with him and his brother. And, they were wildcatting, and, just a made in America story. And he kept drilling well into his 80s. His son started drilling, financed his son. They were drilling wells in the Marcellus Formation in Pennsylvania. They later partnered with Blackstone. I mean, the guy just never quit. And later on, he became very philanthropic and bankrolled the giant Magellan telescope. And, this guy is just an American legend. And to him, we say, George Mitchell, rest in peace. You really made a contribution to the United States and to the world, and to that we are eternally grateful to you. And since this is a Triple Lutz report, one of our favorite guests, someone who's interviewed me a number of times, Elijah Johnson, got written up in the Toledo Free Press. I'm sure it's not free, but they call it that anyway. For those of you who don't know, Elijah, he's from Toledo. He's 17 years old. He spoke at the Liberty Mastermind Symposium that we held in Dallas, and he's homeschooled. And good-looking kid, like I said, 17, and he basically, I found him. He asked to interview me. I looked at some of his YouTubes. The kid was amazing. He figured out long before I did that the Federal Reserve just prints money out of thin air, and basically, that the monetary system, everything about it is totally corrupt. Everything that it took me, well, I have to admit, I learned about the monetary system back in college, so I was about 20 or so when I learned about it, but this kid has it over on me. This kid's the future, and there's a whole spread about him. We've got it up on the financialsurvivalnetwork.com, and it's pretty amazing what they said about him, and really impressed that he made it to the Dead Tree media, and the good things that they said about him. I don't think that the author of the story really understood anything about the Federal Reserve and how corrupt the monetary system is. But what the author really did get across is that the benefits of homeschooling for the right person, how a homeschooled individual who's a free thinker can really shine, because rather than, as Elijah said, you think critically about everything you take in when you're homeschooled. It's not so much of a factory setting. With homeschooling, you can take learning seriously. Instead of reading endlessly about Yellowstone National Park, we took a field trip to experience it. And that's what it's about, homeschooling, experiential learning. And like you said, his channel, Finance and Liberty, has more than 200 videos and nearly 1 million total views. I'm really proud of Elijah. I'm proud of what he's done. I'm glad that I've played a part in it, however small it might be, because Elijah's the future, man. You know, like, hey, I'm in my mid-50s, had my 5 careers, and I'm looking forward to my 6th career, although really I'm on this career as my 5th. It's my last career. I'm just having fun doing it. And when I see a kid like Elijah rise, and he's a future star, it makes everything that I'm doing worthwhile. And I hope that you really support Elijah, watch his videos, and hey, I hope he becomes 10 times the success that I've ever been. Elijah, man, you just keep up that great work. You keep doing what you're doing, because, man, you are the future. This is Kerry Lutz signing off. Don't forget, go to the Financial Survival Network. Get the free reports. We've got more coming up. I'm getting reports from other people. And also, don't forget, please fill out the listener surveys. It's so important that I get your feedback here. I need to know who you are. I need to know who's listening. I have no way of knowing who you are other than if you subscribe and fill out those listener surveys. So please, please, please do it. And hey, keep listening, and I'll keep doing my best that I possibly can. Thanks again. Hi, it's Kerry Lutz. I recently decided to move my retirement account into physical precious metals to hedge against the coming times. If you want to move an existing retirement account into physical precious metals that you can hold in your hand, tax-free, there's no company that can do it more quickly and efficiently than Regal Assets. It took them just 24 hours to open my new IRA account, and all I had to do was fill out one simple form. The best part is that Regal Assets does all the work for you. They cover the setup and administrative costs for 2013. If you're interested in making the same move I did, call 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620. That's 855-678-6620, or visit them at regalassets.com. You'll be glad you did, and tell them Kerry sent you.
The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.